The first shot cracked the silence of the abandoned transit hub and turned a sleeping flock of dust birds into a gray cloud. Kessa's coil pistol spat a thread of blue fire that sliced past the human's shoulder and bit a line in the stone pillar behind him. He didn't flinch. He moved. He crossed the open floor in a streak of momentum. Low, fast, boots whispering over grit, and Kessa's fingers fumbled with the charging lever by instinct and not by habit. If he'd been one of her own people, she'd have had time to reload. If he'd been any other species, the shot would have made him dive and hide. But this one closed the distance before she could slap the fresh cell home. His hand collided with the barrel of her pistol, knocking it aside. The second shot shivered into the ceiling, showering them with old glass glitter. He stepped inside the reach of her aim, and she saw his eyes up close, a brown you could hide in, and the faint scars feathering his cheek like a map of old choices. "Don't," he said, breath steady despite the sprint. "If you shoot again, the sentries wake up." "They're already awake," Kessa hissed, pivoting into a hook with the butt of her pistol. He slipped the strike, turned it with his forearm, and Kessa felt something unexpected: restraint. He wasn't trying to break her. He was trying to stop her from making noise. Metal tick. Red pinpricks winked to life across the vaulted hall, as if the hub had opened its tired eyes. Kessa swore in her own tongue. The Warden drones had heard anyway. They moved at the same time, she twisting out of his grip, he releasing without the tug-of-war that would have gotten them both tagged. They vaulted the same shattered ticket counter and dropped behind it into shared cover as a drone searchlight poured over the counter like milk. "I'm going to guess," the human murmured. "You're here for the same thing I am." "You're guessing wrong." Kessa thumbed a curved blade from her belt, the steel humming with a tone only her people were meant to hear. "I'm here to take you in." He shot her a look that might have been a smile if their lives weren't about to end. "Name's Jace. If you take me in, neither of us gets out. They'd rather burn the hub than let me walk." "They?" Kessa risked a glance. Drones skated past like fat silver moths. Their rifles weren't modest. Jace pointed up to the old transit board where schedules once glowed. Now a single word pulsed: lock. The corporation. The syndicates. Anyone who's still pretending they own this dead place. You know how you fired at a human and he didn't run? The ones who make the rules don't run either. They just erase rooms. "Then we move," Kessa said. They moved. They threaded the spine of the hub, down the skeleton stairwells, through the belly of broken escalators, all while the Warden drones combed the air above like patient sharks. Kessa's senses unfurled. She had trained to smell electricity, hear a servo twitch, taste the cold of a camera's gaze on her skin. The human stayed a step behind where she couldn't watch him without turning her head. It scratched at her instincts like sand under a bandage. "Why are you here?" she asked at last, as they squeezed through a wedge of fallen concrete and into a maintenance corridor that smelled of old oil and trapped rain. "To keep a key from going to the wrong hands," Jace said. "A seed code for the orbital ring. Whoever holds it can wake the cannons. I'd rather no one did. Your people built those cannons. My people built coffee shops and bad songs." He gave a soft huff. "Men with badges built the cannons. I'm just trying to keep them sleeping." Kessa snorted. "You expect me to believe a merciful human joined the ring war to sing? Please. Didn't join." He touched his chest, as if to show there wasn't a uniform under his ragged field jacket. "I ferry things. Messages. People. Today a thing. Tomorrow, maybe a person." She heard what he didn't say. "Tomorrow maybe you." They reached a rusted service door. Kessa knelt, pressed her ear to the seam, and found the living hum of a power line beyond. The vault was not far. Her client, a syndicate broker who spoke like a snake shedding skin, had told her the route. He wanted the seed code for leverage, not to fire the ring. He had said the word peace with a grin that meant ransom. Kessa keyed the door with a wire and a prayer. The corridor opened into a long vault chamber lined with lockers whose seals were grown into the wall like black barnacles. In the center stood a pedestal with two concave plates cupped like a pair of open hands. "Dual imprint," Jace said, coming to a stop. His voice had changed. Not just softer but older. Tired. They sealed it for two species. This station was meant as a bridge before it became a bone. "You need me," Kessa said. He didn't argue. "And you need me, or you wouldn't be here already. Your syndicate sent you to lift what they couldn't lift alone." He nodded to the plates. "We touch together. If we trust each other for 5 seconds, we can turn a war off like a light." "What if I take it after?" she asked. "What if I shoot you then?" Jace met her eyes. "I'll move before you reload." A strand of humor pulled at her mouth despite herself. "You're an idiot." Not denying it. The chamber hummed with a distant alarm. The wardens had found a trail. Kessa set her palm on one plate and winced as it pinched, then warmed. Jace laid his hand on the other. The plates drank them in, heat, impulse, identity, reading the tiny stories written in each of their bones. For a breath there was only the pulse of the pedestal and the extraordinary quiet of two enemies holding still. "Ready?" Jace asked. "No," Kessa said and pressed down. Light spooled up from the pedestal. A column of symbols scrolling like rain turned vertical. In the heart of it floated a small, sealed capsule. The seed code information curled into a steel fruit. The plates released them. Kessa snatched the capsule. The wardens arrived. They poured through the ceiling vents in a glittering wasp cloud. Jace grabbed Kessa's elbow and pulled her behind the pedestal as the first volley stitched holes where they'd been standing. He drew a pistol, compact, ugly, and returned fire with methodical pops that put drones into the floor smoking. Kessa slid her blade across a low flyer as it cut around the pedestal. It fell in two neat pieces that trembled and died with little lights blinking out like stars at dawn. "Back door!" Kessa shouted over the storm, pointing to the access hatch in the far wall. "Behind the wasp cloud," Jace said. They moved together without speaking. Jace took the forward draw, absorbing fire, while Kessa went low, carving the gap. He put his shoulder into the hatch and it gave with a shriek. They slammed it behind them and ran, breath knifing the air, feet drumming on metal rungs down a steep ladder that vibrated with the angry gnawing of drones on the far side. They spilled into a sump room where water lapped against black walls. "There's a waste sluice," Kessa said, pointing to the sluice gate on the far side. "Spits out into the ravine." "We'll be shot the second we emerge," Jace replied. "Unless we don't." "Don't what?" "Emerge where they're looking." He waded into the water and yanked open a maintenance grate half hidden by slime. A low tunnel yawned. Filthy, narrow, survivable. Kessa looked at the seed code in her palm, felt the weight of it not into a future she did not yet understand, then slid the capsule into a mesh pocket inside her vest.